Okay, today I'm gonna cover the 3 biggest mistakes that I've seen a lot of people do, tons and tons of people do when it comes to gaining muscle, all right? I'm gonna keep this simple, down to 3, okay? The first one, you're probably not training hard enough or smart enough, or a combination of both, okay? So let's first start off with the hard. No matter what program you're doing, whether it be RPA based, a percentage based, a daily undulating periodization, linear periodization, that does not matter if you're not training hard enough. I've seen people on programs in the gym, and they're like, okay, this set's supposed to be a 7 RPE. They get done with the set, it looks like a 4 RPE. If you know the language, you know what I'm talking about, you know what that means. That means they had way more than 3 repetitions left in the tank. Let me tell you something. If you're doing a 7 RPE on an exercise, especially like a squat or a deadlift, that is gonna be pretty hard if you're saying I'm 3 reps away from failure. So you know who you are, look yourself in the mirror. If you need to train harder, train harder. For those who need to train smarter, maybe it's coming down to how many times you're hitting a body part per week. Maybe you're not getting enough frequency. A lot of typical bodybuilding splits from the 90s have you hitting everything once a week. If you're trying to maximize muscle hypertrophy and you're not on anabolic steroids, you need more frequency in your training, point blank, okay? So hitting stuff 1 time a week is not gonna be optimal for you. Crank it up to 2 times. For some people, for smaller muscle groups like calves or biceps, you probably can even do 3, but if you're doing a properly built program, you're gonna indirectly hit it 3 times per week because your compound lifts are gonna hit it, okay? More is not always better either. So for people who are on that other end and you're doing too much volume, scale that back. Remember what I talked about in previous videos where I talked about minimum effective dose. See how your body responds, give it more if it needs more. If you're on the right track, keep going in that direction, okay? Next thing. You're probably not eating as much as you think, or you're not probably eating the correct amount of like macronutrient distributions, meaning like people who want to gain muscle but are afraid of carbohydrates. That's nonsense. If you're afraid of carbs, carbs are protein sparing, okay? So carbs are going to help aid in the muscle building process. And the more carbohydrates you have in the diet, the less protein you're going to need in your diet, okay? They are really great for aiding in your body's recovery process. They're really great for your energy. So do not be afraid of carbohydrates, okay? And for those of you who are not eating enough, start tracking your food intake. Start having an understanding. Just because you're eating weight gain shakes from, certain supplement lines and you're doing peanut butter and jelly sandwiches and you think you're eating enough food, that's not good quality food. Start putting quality foods in your body. Start trying to eat 4 or 5 times a day. Start tracking those meals. The reason why you want to eat 4 or 5 times a day because you want to spread out your body's basically like being able to spike protein synthesis, okay? That will help a little bit in the long term. But the main and most important thing is going to be your calorie intake. So make sure you're consuming enough calories. And last but not least, start executing the movements correctly, okay? If you're going to the gym and you have a 3x10 on your program and you go there and you're just like la da 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 and you're doing a movement and you're not being extremely precise about the details about how you're executing it. All right, am I Valsalmer? How's my hip hinge? How's my depth? Am I feeling the movement fluid? How am I connecting with the muscle? Is the muscles working that's supposed to be working? Am I feeling that in my lower back? You need to be thinking about this stuff after and before the set, okay? You want to be so attentive to the details because a lot of times when I'm programming for clients and things like that, we don't have to do crazy amount of volume increases over time. We don't have to say, okay, we started you off on a 3x10, now we're doing a 6x10. That rarely ever happens. What we end up doing because we're executing the movement properly and we're focusing on recovery and we're eating enough, a lot of times the progressive overload happens just by increasing the amount of load on the bar. And you can do that by focusing on the movement. You don't have to go in and do 5, 10 sets, do 20 different exercises. A lot of times you do 5 exercises, just execute the hell out of them and you're gonna see crazy gains. I have virtually been doing, since I found over time what works for my body, the same probably 12 to 15 exercises and just rinse, wash, rinse, recycle, and repeat, however that saying goes. As we can keep doing the same thing over. Yes, when I'm powerlifting, it's a little bit different. My frequency goes down, things change a little bit. But for when I'm bodybuilding, it's pretty much the same because it's rinse, recycle, and repeat. It's that same system. The same thing can be for you. So execute the movements. I am so crazy about detail with my clients. That's why I had them send me videos so I could look at it, make sure we are doing this stuff the correct way. You should be that same way, okay? So make sure you're eating enough. Make sure your macronutrient distributions are properly distributed between all the ones. Don't be afraid of carbohydrates if you're trying to put on muscle mass. Even if you're trying to diet, that is the most ridiculous thing. Execute the movements properly and train smart or train harder or a combination of the two, okay? So these are my 3 tips if you want to increase muscle, all right?